Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm continuing my Linux series where I teach you the Linux CLI. In previous episodes I've gone over how to create, copy, and move files and directories on the system, and if you'd like to see those videos I'll post links in the description box below. Today we're going to go over how to remove files and directories, and I'll also show you a few important flags that you want to know as well. So with that, let's jump in. So if you've been watching my other episodes, you'll know, that we've been just creating things in my home directory. I'll do a quick listing here so that way we can see what's all there. Basically, a lot of useless files. Nothing that's important. I've actually been looking forward to this episode so I can clean this up because normally I don't like to have a bunch of unneeded files in a particular directory. I'd like to keep it nice and structured. It just makes it a lot easier to administer the system. So, like I said, we've created a bunch of files. We've created some directories, a lot of directories with more directories in them and other files. Nothing important. So we're going to be going over how to remove these, and I'll be cleaning up my directories and cleaning up my files, and I'll show you how I'm doing that along the way. So the first thing we're going to do is remove files. So if you recall, to copy it's CP, to move a file it's MV, and to remove it's simply RM. So to me that it kind of goes along with the same command pattern, I guess. So let's go ahead. I've got very large file. That's taking up 1 GB on my system. I'll do a long listing with the human readable size, and we can see that very large file here is 1 GB. So this is going to be the first one I'm going to move. So I will go ahead and just do RM, and then I'm not going to give it any flags. I'm just going to do very, and I'll hit tab so it autofills, and I will hit enter. And so we do that. I'll do a listing again, and notice very large file is now gone. So very simple way to remove files. Now there's a couple flags that I want to go over, and the first one is going to be the -I flag. So what this does is you're saying that you want to interact with the system while it's removing files, and this is good because it's almost it's like a safety feature. So you can say, okay, rm-I, and if you get used to that, whenever you go to remove a file, instead of it just removing it, it will ask you, say, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And this is good for when you remove multiple files or anything like that, using wildcards or using regular expressions perhaps. We'll cover those in another video, at least the regular expressions. But what we can do is pass the -I, and that just makes sure that we are validating everything that we're removing on the system. So as an example, I've got 2 new files, right? I don't need one of those. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove new file 2 next. So I'm going to do RM. I'm going to add the -I flag, and there's a space between these, and then I'm going to do another space, and now I'm going to give the file name. So I hit tab, and I want to add the 2 there. So I'm going to hit enter, and you'll notice it's asking me, okay, do I want to remove this file? And in this case, I do. The way you just answer this is simple Y for yes, or N for no. And so I'm going to say, actually, you know what? Let's say I didn't want to. I'll hit N first, right? So I'm going to do a listing. New file 2 is still there. It didn't remove the file. Perfect. So if I made a mistake, I have that safety to say, nope, keep the file there. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again. New file 2. Hit enter, and this time I'm going to say Y. And when I list the system, I no longer have new file 2. So that's exactly what I wanted to do. But like I said, the -I flag, it's very useful to just ensure that you are meaning to delete the file and that you're certain. Okay, so now I want to show you an example where the -I flag is commonly used. And this is going to be where we're deleting multiple files. So I'm going to list recursively the contents of my temp directory. And okay, so in here I've got, like I said, these are not important files, but this stats directory here, I'm going to just go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to cd here. So I'm going to change my directory to this path. Now I'm going to list the contents, and I have 6 files here. And let's say I want to delete all of these files. Well, the easiest way to do this is we're going to use what's known as a wildcard, and it's the asterisk. It's the most basic wildcard that you'll need to know, and basically it matches, I believe it's 0 or more characters. So if I say, I can say ls-l, and if I do stats1, we only see that one file. If I don't list anything, it does everything. But if I did, stats, and then let's say I wanted to do star. So what this is going to do is it's going to say, okay, anything that matches stats and anything else after that. So it could just be stats. It could be stats1, and in this case we have 1 through 6. So when I hit enter, I get the expected output of just everything because it matched it. I can also do ls-l star, and it lists the whole contents of that directory, so everything in it. And what we'll do now is we're going to use the same concept with rm, but like I said, I'm going to use it with the -i flag, which means it's going to ask me or prompt me each time if I want to delete the file, and you'll see what it does here. So rm-i, and I'm going to do, I'll just do star, because I know I'm in the correct directory. So when I hit enter, notice it's going to say, do you want to remove stats1? I'll say yes. Remove stats2? Yes. Stats3? Yes. And what if, I go down here and I'm like, well, oh, you know what? I really need to keep stats6. I want to keep that one. So I'm going to say no. And whenever I'm done, I do a listing. I still have stats6. And so in this case, if I thought I wanted to delete everything, but because I asked it to interact with me and ask me for each one, I was able to say, well, maybe I needed stat6, and I was able to tell it no. So that's where -i can be useful, because when you're deleting files, once it's gone, it's difficult to get it back if you're just using the basic system. You can use recovery tools, but typically there's not the idea of like a recycling bin like what Windows has. So once you delete the file, it's not there on the system, and you have to find another way to get it. So -i is a good flag to know and use whenever you're deleting things. And I'll actually show you another thing that you'll need to know, and this will be, we'll go over the root user, but it's common for administrators to be a root user. So I'm going to cd to my home directory, just so that way I'm there. I'm going to switch to the root user, and all you need to know is that this is like the administrator. Let me type my password here. All right, so all you need to know about the root user for now is that it's like an administrative user, meaning it can do anything on the system that you need it to do. But one important thing I want to show you is, because it relates to the rm command, if I have a file, so I'm going to just do touch test. So I have a test file here. If I want to delete it as the root user, notice I'm not going to specify -i, but I'm going to do rm test. And when I hit enter, it should just delete it. But it's prompting me and asking me if I'm sure I want to delete the file. So this is different. It's not what we saw with our normal user. And the reason why is because most Linux distributions, when you're the root user, they actually set up what's known as an alias for you. And what it does is when you run rm, it will actually include the -i flag to make sure that because you're an administrative user and it will do whatever you tell it to do, without needing to confirm permissions, it's just a good fail-safe to make sure that you are deleting the correct files, you won't get it back easily. So it's just something good to know that as the root user, Linux tries to take care of that for you and help you with that. You can change it if you want to. I don't recommend it. I've gotten used to it. I used to hate it at first, but there have been times where I'm the root user and you can make mistakes, and it's a good way to make sure that you don't cause yourself extra headaches while you're removing files. So I'm going to, I don't need this file, say yes, it's gone. That's what we needed. So perfect. So now I'm back to my user. And the next thing we'll go over is, it's going to be the opposite of the -i, which is interactive, and it's going to be the -f. So And actually, you know what? We're going to switch back to the root user just to continue showing you, because this is asking us each time to delete a file. Once again, I'm going to touch a test file, and when I do rm, I'm going to use the -f flag. And so -i is for interactive, meaning it'll ask you. -f is to force removal. So rm-f test. Now in this case, it would want to interact with me and ask me if I'm sure, but because I'm passing it -f, I'm forcing it to remove it. So when I hit enter, the file is gone. It didn't prompt me, and when I list it, it is gone. So -f is another useful flag. Like I said, it's going against the safety that Linux has built in, but if you're certain, there are times where having -f is actually useful, and I'll show you that right now. So I'm the root user, I'm in a different path. We can confirm that with pwd that we've gone over before. So I'm going to cd into home butler k. Okay, so this looks familiar. I'm not in my home directory as the root user, but I'm in my home directory as butler k. And so I'm going to do ls-lr, my temp directory, and in this case, because I'm going to be deleting this anyways, I'm going to come here to this receipts directory. So I'm going to cd in here. I'm going to list the contents. So notice I'm going to do rm, and I'm just going to do rm star, and you'll see the behavior that it does here. So I do rm star, and notice it doesn't just delete the files, it asks me for each one. And so I could go and say yes, yes, yes to all of these, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to just exit out of this using Control-C. That'll just kind of exit you out of a command that you don't want to continue with. But what we'll do is, because I want to delete these, I'm going to use rm-f, and then I'm going to add star here. So notice when I hit enter, the prompt comes back. I'll list it, and everything's gone. So I overwrote the root user's interactive alias, and I said, you know what, I don't want to say yes to all of these, just delete all of them because I know I don't need them. When you're first doing it, I encourage you to be careful. Make sure that you know what you're doing, just because you don't want to give yourself headaches, like I said. So now that we've gone over that, we're going to go over how to delete directories. So I'm going to exit out of this user, and I'm back to myself. I'm Butler K again, and I'll go ahead and clear the screen here just to keep the screen nice and tidy. So I've got my temp directory, and that's one we've already been working in deleting files. So let me show you what happens if I do rm my temp directory and hit enter. Well, it can't remove it because it's a directory, and the reason why is because I need to use the -r or lowercase r flag. So this is basically like ls-R will recursively look into directories. When you use rm-r, it will do the same thing. It will proceed into the directories, and it will make sure that if you're deleting a non-empty directory, that it looks past or up through all the directories and finds all the files, and then it will delete those for you. So you have to specify for directories. So I'm going to do rm, and I'm going to do -r, and in this case I want to do -i, or I'm going to include the I flag with it as well. And I'm going to say rm-ri my temp directory, and notice it's saying, okay, do you want to descend into my temp directory? Okay, yes. Do I want to remove this file? I could say yes. Let's delete that file. Do I want to remove this backup file here? Sure. So, okay, so in this case, I wanted it to ask me for each one, but I want to show you something else. So I'm going to exit out of this with Control-C. And what I want to do is I'm going to use rm, I'm going to use -r, and typically the F flag will also go with it. So I know this whole directory. I don't need it. It's got typically a lot of directories that I create. If I put temp in it, it is a temporary directory. It can go away at any time, and I'm not going to be sad. I can recreate it or whatever. But I know I want to delete this. So when you use -R, typically -F goes with it. It doesn't have to in this case, but as we saw before with the root user, it would be the case because it would actually ask you each time because the -I flag is there aliased for you. So this is typically why you do -RF. Be very careful when you do this because if you delete the wrong directory, anything under that directory can be bad. So in this case, I know I want to delete this directory, rm-rf, my temp directory, and I own the directory, everything's fine, so when I hit enter, it should just go away. So I hit enter, now I'm going to do a listing, and notice there's no more my temp directory. So like I said, be very careful with that command, especially as root, because you're overriding the alias to interact and ask you. But it's a good flag to know when you're certain that you need to remove whole directories. So we'll go ahead and I don't need some more of these, and I'm going to just remove sshd config .bak. I don't need that one. And then, you know what, my directory, that's where I've got some of my files staged, but my company, I don't really need anything there. I'm going to do rm-r. So in this case, I'll show you I don't have the -I alias. So if I do rm-r for my company, and before we do that, you know, it's safe. It's always good to list everything first. So I'm looking in, I just looked in, oh, I need to specify my directory. So I'm going to list my directory, and in this case, it's going to be my company actually. So I'm going to do ls-lr, my company, and hit enter. And okay, I'm confirming there's not as much files in here. Earlier when I was about to delete it and I listed, I showed an example where I had made a mistake. I listed the wrong contents. That threw me off. And so it's good that I'm confirming that this is the correct directory, my company. There's not as many files. There's nothing in these really that I need. So I'll just fake data. So now I'm going to use rm-r. And like I said, I don't need to specify the F because of my user. So if I do rm-r, my company, you'll notice that when I hit enter, it deletes it. So the F flag, like I said, it's not necessary depending on your user. When you are root, it is typically when you're deleting a lot of files, you'll notice you'll try to delete a big directory. Maybe it's an old application directory that you don't need anymore. Maybe it was a backup at one point, but now it's no longer needed because you have plenty of other backups. And let's say it's just the directory structure and all the files. If you do rm-r as the root user on that application directory, it's going to prompt you hundreds, if not thousands of times for every single file and directory and to proceed down. So that would be a prime example where rm-rf would be useful. But once again, please be careful with that command. You don't want to cause more trouble for yourself. So that's how we use the rm command to delete files and directories on the system. I hope you found this video useful, and until next time, take care and God bless.